All right, let's do this all over again. The county assembly in my home county of Siaya has today become the first in the country to debate and pass NASA's motion on setting up of the People's Assembly or assemblies. MCS passed it unanimously after Siaya Assembly Speaker George Okoda led members through the debate. They say the two presidential elections held on 8th August and 26th October were null and void, and they support a referendum to make some major changes in how the country is governed. Nationally, NASA leader Raila Odinga's calls for an interim government in a Reuters interview, drawing some sharp reaction. You know where I come from, I can't help it. And a lot of reaction from Jubilee lawmakers. So the Nisumkate narrative back in play, and a lot of people have a lot to say about it. In the meantime, the Supreme Court preparing to consolidate a record 4 petitions challenging the re-election of President Uhuru Kenyatta, led lawyers for the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC), the National Super Alliance, and the Jubilee Party working overtime, filing responses to the suits. There has never been a better time for a show such as this. So let's get this show on the road.
Because the IEBC did not conduct nominations, it has not held elections.
If the Supreme Court now clears him, it will just be the beginning of another struggle.
When certain institutions are seen to have assisted a process that has taken away the will of the people, then it's important that a message gets to them.
Urge our people in Western and all Kenyans in totality to ignore the NRM NASA boycott call.
Siasa hizi za kuweza kuchokozana na kuweza kusema tunajitenga, si siasa za kupeleka Kenya mbele na si siasa za kumsaidia Mkenya yoyote.
Tunataka kusuluhisha shida zetu kwa umoja wetu na kuelewa kuwa Kenya yetu ni moja.
My name is Madowo. Welcome to Sidebar Extended. My guests tonight, Junet Mohammed, Director of Elections in ODM, MP Suna East. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And for the first time, Joshua Kutunyi, MP for the Great People of Cherangani. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
The first time also on the show, one of the youngest senators, Senator Cherargei Samson from the Great People of Nandi County. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
And MP for the fine people of Makueni, Dan Manzo. Thank you all so much for coming in, gentlemen. I want to play for you something that Raila Odinga said in a Reuters interview that is getting a lot of attention right now, calling for an interim government, and people are reacting to this right now. Jackson, you want to bring that out right now so people can listen to it?
What we are calling for requires a longer time, and in the meantime we need to have an interim arrangement of governance which will involve representatives from both parties. We think that maybe 6 months.
So now NASA wants a 6-month interim government. Honorable Mohammed, I thought NASA did not want a Nisumkate government.
No, in fact it's good he spoke to AFP and he didn't speak to these local stations. You see, what Raila is talking about is not Nisumkate. He's talking about an interim government that can put in place mechanisms to conduct free and fair, credible elections. Not to be in that government. When he says we want interim government, it doesn't mean necessarily that it must be formed by NASA, but it can be formed by any other body that can give Kenyans credible elections. As you know, we didn't have any elections this year. We didn't have an election in August. We didn't have an election on 26th. So we are still longing and waiting for proper elections. That's what he means.
Is there any law to form this kind of interim government, Senator?
The law is clear, but I don't want to say that because it depends on what you look from. I don't think the constitution, unless we amend the constitution to create room. And in fact, I think my good friend, the MP for Suna East, was not keen. Raila said we need the representative of NASA and Jubilee in that caretaker government. So he didn't say it cannot be either side. So the law does not support either. In fact, they are sugarcoating is by calling it an interim government. They should just say Nisumkate, and the narrative we are seeing time and again. And I think maybe the great leader of NASA is suffering from what we had in 2007-2008 of a Nisumkate government. They had with Kibaki, and I think he has realized that's the only option, because the elections that were done on 26th October were the directive of the Constitution and the Supreme Court. So it was held. He boycotted it. So you cannot say there is no election.
Exactly. He said there was no election.
No, there was no election in Kenya.
Election was there.
In certain parts, like where he comes from, But where,
No,
I,
they
come,
sabotage.
but where I come from, I didn't see any elections.
They
So you
sabotage
know he's
in-
talking on behalf of where he comes from. I'm talking on behalf of where I come from. Where I come from, if it is part of the country, there were no elections.
Of course, the great 4 counties in Nyanza region are the counties in Kenya. And you saw, in fact, that this one of the media houses that covered, there was a proper systematic and systemic violence and sabotage that ensure IEBC did not carry the elections that were expected. And therefore, elections was done on 26 October. They boycotted it. And in fact, the president who is duly elected and the deputy president meet the threshold that are set by the constitution.
That's one thing I'll ask this other lawyer. But before that, what is the difference between the interim government that Honorable Odinga talks about and the Nusumkate government, which has had such a bad reputation in this country?
Well, you know, the two terms can only be created by law if they are to exist. You remember the first time there was a coalition government in Kenya, some coalition law had to be passed in Parliament, and the Honorable Kutunyi was there. He remembers, and it is that law which was used to govern the country, together with that old constitution then, up to the time we made a new constitution. Now with the new constitution, it was clear that 20% of it was not good, and you know, Honorable Kutunyi was in the know, and a lot of Kenyans are realizing now we passed a constitution which can't hold the country together. That's why you hear Honorable Junetti say they did not have elections. Senator Yai say he had election because the country is split into two. Kenya is now in two halves. So the reality of it is that we must create another, Parliament has to create another medium so that we make proper constitutional changes. We have so that we have a constitution which can hold the country together. This idea of winner takes it all has created a very bad attitude in Kenya, so that you know, the winner thinks there are no other people. But the way Kenya is made is such that you have to hold the country together, and you need a law which can serve that purpose. And for that law to be arrived at, you need a situation whereby the two sides of government are working together, have a medium on interim basis, you know, so that we can create that law and then have proper elections in the country.
What is your reaction to that call for an interim government from Raila Odinga?
Thank you. Before I say, before I register my opinion, first of all, let me condole with the family of my friend, and also my consultant, Wahome Daktari, for for what happened, and it is a sad moment to such a lose a good person. And then two, on these issues of and you know, last week I was here and I did mention about it. When I listened to Raila when he was making the so-called bombshell statement, Raila did touch on a number of issues, and one very fundamental issue or two fundamental matters that Raila touched on that day was dialogue, and then there was another issue of the People's Assembly. And I did say that Raila has conceded defeat and he was looking for an exit strategy, and now with that one he has confirmed my argument by today raising the issue of an interim government. Interim government cannot be supported by the current constitution. As it stands now, constitutionally, Kenyans are waiting for the Supreme Court ruling, and after that then it determines the state of the nation.
Right.
If we will go back to the elections via nullification of Uhuru Kenyatta victory or uphold Uhuru's Kenyatta victory. So anything being raised out of that is a political statement that cannot be supported by the constitution. But then what is the point here? And I want to, my friend here have been his political advisor for a very long time. I'm the one who introduced him to politics.
Is that true?
And I want to tell him that Raila, if you listen to Raila, because I've dealt with Raila for a very long time, he is not a politician you can just wish away. But on this one, I will want to know who is Raila's political advisor or strategist. Because now they have realized that the election was conducted as per the constitution. And now the situation that he's finding himself is that he has to fight for space. Now, what is going to happen and what is likely to happen with the People's Assembly, like what happened in Siaya, that resolution by Assembly of Siaya, they will do ratification. And then they will send it also to the National Assembly for the same ratification. I am seeing Raila setting stage for referenda immediately when he comes back, and is going to call for referenda. He comes back to also, this issue also will come to Parliament, and we will participate. We understand that there are also challenges in the Constitution. And I think...
So do you support the NASA referendum? Is that what you're saying?
You know, if it means, and I want to say this very clearly, that there are some gray areas in the Constitution, and if they've realized that there are gray areas in the Constitution, then let them follow the Constitution, then to amend the Constitution. But any negotiation about the 6 months interim government, it's a way of running away from the truth. It is impossible.
Honorable Manzo said you oppose the Constitution, so it's interesting you talk about upholding the Constitution now.
I did, and I will say up to today that this Constitution, there are some sections, and I remember even when Raila, during his time 45 minutes in Parliament, he did support this Constitution. And I met him immediately after that when he had addressed Parliament. And I told him the system that we are adopting is called the spoil system kind of government, where the winner takes it all.
Okay.
We wanted a fallback position so that if I'm running for presidency, then let me also run for Senate. So then if I don't get the president, I remain to be the senator.
Okay.
I exercise my political capability in the Senate.
You wanted to respond, Honorable
Juilee? Yeah, I heard or I hear here my colleague saying that Raila was conceding defeat. First, you concede defeat after you participate in an election. Raila was not contesting on 26th of October, the so-called the opinion poll of Jubilee that took place on that day. So Raila is not conceding, and it's for a fact in this country that the elections that happened in August 8th was nullified by the Supreme Court, so there was no election. It's for a fact that on 26th of October, we did not have a proper election in this country that's worth being called an election. So basically what we are saying as NASA and what Raila is saying is that this country must have credible election. It's not about somebody saying that I am in power and I can't leave. Right. That's the situation we are in now. But for a fact, and he doesn't want Nus Mukati. Actually, this genesis of Nus Mukati, where it began from in this country, is after Raila winning in 2007 with the support of Kutuj here, who became a member of parliament that time, Cherangany. And that's the first time he joined politics. But me, I was a mayor of my city in 2003. So that tells you where we came, but we found ourselves on the way after we were together in the same party. Is that when Raila won that election of 2007, the people who were in power that time refused to leave office. They said, we are not accepting, we are not leaving. So instead of the country burning, instead of the country going to the dogs, is when Raila accepted to form a joint government with that person who was in power at that point in time.
Is that similar to what he's suggesting now?
Not really, not at all. This time, you know, Hussein, I mean Larry.
Hussein and I look very different.
You see, Larry, this issue of elections, the Jubilee side are belittling it and taking it very, casually. This country, the standards that are being set through this election, the 26th elections, and the 8th election that was nullified by the Supreme Court, is that we are not going to have an election in the next 30 years in this country. It's just, it will be a matter of coronation. In 2002, somebody will be coronated as a president in this country, most likely from his community, because now it has become like a relay. They just pass the baton to each other since independence. 2022. So that is what Raila is not going to accept.
Okay.
That he wants to have this country to have proper elections once and for all, whether he wins or he loses.
That's the argument that NASA keeps making, that 26 October was just a coronation, or as he calls it, Jubilee opinion poll. Senator?
I don't think, because the great people of NASA are very interesting, because what the IEBC did is as per Article 81 and 86 of the Constitution of Kenya, and the fact that the Kenyans did exercise their democratic right as envisaged in under Article 38. So the issue is, because they knew very well that Jubilee had campaigned very hard, they didn't have an option of losing it. They realized they were working on something that they would lose, and therefore they realized it was not making sense if they realized. And that is why you can see Raila now is coming up with some funny ideas that cannot work in this country. And the essence of democracy anywhere across the world is the majority have their way. and minority have their say. And I want to agree with my brother Kutuny. And those are the same questions when we ask, how can somebody get 6 million votes and go home as nobody? So that it should be, when such ideas are coming, is when now these things have been settled out, and we hope when the president will be sworn in and the government up and running. Those are some of the issues. And you know the problem we have with our colleagues, especially, they have been boycotting the right platform. They have not been coming to Senate or Parliament or National Assembly where some of these ideas can be generated. They have decided to abdicate their duty, which is, I think, it is contrary in leadership and integrity, and create People's Assembly. Like Mahanzo is paid to be in the House and draw salary so that they can debate and create a platform where some of these issues can be generated. Right. So the elections did happen within the law and as envisaged by the law and as at the direction of the Supreme Court and in line with Article 140. And I want to insist, and everybody knows, the elections in the 4 great counties of Nyanza region where I border, and you saw this week we were making peace in Chemelil, and I was there. The problem is that there were people who we talked to them, and some of them were willing to participate in an election, but some goons and violence were sponsors so that they ensure the IBC did not conduct an elections as per the law.
Honorable Manzo, he says so many different things that I want to get through, but first is about whether or not there was an election on 26th October, because this is up for debate again, and people are reading the law differently. You
know, that is now a question which is before the Supreme Court.
Right.
And I think if we go to merits of it, we'll be beginning, you know, to argue that matter, which is really not nice. This is sub judice. True. You know, my learned friend is aware of what they have filed, because NASA has not filed any petition. But a few individuals there, and in fact it's Jubilee which has filed a petition. They wanted to slip in which petition they are seeking, you know, endorsement of the president among other prayers, and I'm sure the Supreme Court will soon hear. And because they have sued us in that petition, then of course we will respond.
I understand that you're working on the responses right now.
Yes, the whole of today and tomorrow we are working on responses. We will serve them, and I'm sure by next week the Supreme Court will decide whether there was election or no election in this country. As soon as they filed their own petition, they stayed the swearing in of the president, so he can't be sworn till the Supreme Court now makes a decision. So the problem in Kenya now is a political one, and a political problem needs a political solution. Them going to the courts is putting too much of a burden on the courts. So the courts are allowed by the Constitution to direct us and to make sure that the law is followed by the institutions which are in the Constitution, like IBC, the executive, parliament, and all institutions. And therefore, we want a situation whereby Kenyans are able to exercise their sovereign power through the vote in free and fair environment, not fraudulent elections. What has been, there has been, you know, fraud in elections in this country, and I believe that will be canvassed in the Supreme Court.
That said, if it's a political solution, it's a political problem right now, is the solution this interim government until you get to that level where you can have a free, fair and credible election?
Yes, you need first of all to change the Constitution, and secondly we need to reform institutions like IBC. You can't reform these institutions in a current status, because first of all now the president is enjoying temporary incumbency. He cannot hire a commissioner, he cannot sack a commissioner, you cannot hire a judge, he can't, there are so many duties he cannot do. And in that status, then it means you cannot change IBC. It means you cannot change many other institutions, including the Supreme Court. I've seen some people have petitioned that some judges in the Supreme Court be sanctioned. So the country is at standstill.
Okay.
It has a political stalemate, and that stalemate has to be resolved in one way or another.
One of the difficult issues here, which Jubilee has said repeatedly, is when NASA is the one that petitioned the last election, you contested it and you won. And the Supreme Court said it should be carried out by this same Electoral Commission, so you can't purport to boycott it. And then two, Senator Murkomen has been on this show and said legitimacy is not a legal problem. That is a political issue that can be discussed, but legally President Kenyatta was elected, there's no need to discuss this.
First of all, just to take you and without going to the merits of the petition, and I've seen they have not pleaded that particular section. You know, Article 138.2 says that it's a must that a presidential election takes place in all constituencies in the country, such that if 1 or 2 constituencies does not participate, and this case 25 did not. In fact, in one constituency there was no violence at all. There was a claim that there was terrorism, but the next week standard 8 students did exams very well, which means the truth of the matter was there was no clerk who could be hired by IBC. There was nobody willing to work with the IBC. The IBC cannot work without the grassroots. It means the Constitution foresees a situation whereby you must be in an environment where every constituency participates in a presidential election. If that environment is not available by one reason or another, then you can't have an election. So automatically, there was no election in this country. And it's a matter of public notoriety that even IBC had admitted that it cannot deliver a credible election into the country. We knew it was divided into political alliance and alignments. And for that matter, it's no longer impartial, and therefore it can't give free and fair elections. So you can't have a situation whereby part of IBC is part of Jubilee. It's ridiculous. You need an impartial IEBC which conducts its business, and that has to be constituted afresh, like the way the President Moi did in 1997. There was IPPG, whereby every party participated. And I think that was a lot of wisdom. You saw President Kibaki use wisdom in 2008. Did not tear the country into two. He brought the country together. Whoever is elected president has a responsibility of putting the country together, first and foremost.
Honorable Kutu, in your reaction?
Yes. First of all, let me respond to my friend, because he did mention about the issue of conceding, Raila conceding, but I did use 2 statements for the purposes of that. I said Raila conceding, and at the same time, Raila exiting the stage, political stage. So those are 2 statements that he missed one.
Why is Jubilee obsessed with Raila exiting the political stage?
I'll come to that. But I will want to answer my good friend, Mheshimiwa. He's talked about IBBG. Remember, the current commissioners of IBC is a negotiated process. And I remember them having protested for a very long time. And in fact, they sat on the road. They did all manner of, picketing in town until the government had to give in. So it is going to be hypocrisy to talk of IBBG that Moi steered it very clear and then Kibaki perfected it. Also, Uhuru had to give in. And the current commissioners was as a result of a negotiated process.
Sorry, the secretariat has not been dealt with. And that's where the problem is.
Okay, fine. That be the case. Orengo was there. And Kiraitu Murungi was there from the Jubilee side. I expected Orengo, having had the experience for a very long time, to identify those challenges. That if you are changing the commissioners, and time was there, that we should go further and also overhaul the secretariat.
Orengo did
now, this argument of being said all the time that these commissioners are pro-Jubilee, yet very well we know that the people who are recruiting were sitting from both political divide, should not arise. I think the issue here is NASA should be coming up with a strategy of winning an election. The process that they've perfected is how to defend an election when already it has been done. So I will conclude by saying NASA, they've got brilliant legal strategy, but poor political strategy of winning an election. And I will go further to advise them that if they want to participate in an election, they must consider 3 things. 1, they must consider the stage, how they organize, if I was Baba's political thinker. And then 2, have a consistent statement so that it can galvanize their supporters and turn it into voters. And then lastly, have a strategy, have infrastructure to manage an election process where you've got agents, where you've got a parallel tallying center, so that again you can challenge the numbers announced by IEBC vis-a-vis with what you have. But that is what has been lacking. And here is the director.
Director of ODM.
Yes, these are the things that they don't have.
You saying I agree with him. NASA had all the good strategies to win the election. NASA won the election on 8th of August. That's why Jubilee refused to open the servers. and IEBC refused to open the servers. If those servers were open, we will not have even needed a Supreme Court. The result will have been very clear. But one thing that NASA doesn't know, and they never put it into consideration,
NASA or Jubilee?
NASA,
right,
is how to steal elections. Jubilee has perfected the art of stealing elections. So that is not part of the strategy of NASA. But fortunately, it is part of the strategy of Jubilee. So now we have to learn now the art of stealing elections going forward if we are to tear this country into pieces. But that is why Baba is saying that it is better not to steal but to have proper, credible, transparent, verifiable elections. So now they cannot beat NASA on strategies of how to win elections. You know, Baba is the guru of politics. All these people who are running around in the country now, including his leader, are the makings of Baba. At one time, he's my witness. So the issue here is, when will this country have proper elections? Is it going to be now or never? NASA is saying now. Otherwise, it will be never. If you can see, on 26th of October, President Uhuru Kenyatta won 98 with 98%. That is he's only competing in the region with people like Kagame, Museveni. Those are not people you can compete with. You know their history in terms of democracy and good governance.
But you boycotted the election,
yes,
so he didn't have a competitive equal measure.
But when we were boycotting, we were told the other candidates whom we are going to compete with, like Okoro Okot, Sujui Nani, what did they get? What did they get? So we were told, even if you boycott, we have others who are competing against us. So we expected those others to get 45% and Uhuru to get 55%. Then we can say the elections are credible. We look at the percentage of the turnout. 38%. That is the well-recognized percentage of an election turnout is 40%. Anything below 40% is a semblance of an election.
And NASA candidate has just won in Kitutu Churches South with less than that turnout.
That's right. That's
Mr.
right.
Onyonka.
You know, we are discussing a presidential election. We're not discussing here MCAs and MPs. We are discussing somebody who is going to govern the country.
So the turnout only matters at presidential level, but not at MP level.
That guy must have the mandate of everybody in this country.
So do you believe Onyonka has the mandate of the people of Kitutu Churches South?
Lastly, it is high time Jubilee comes down from the top of the mountain, come back to ground zero, accept that there were no elections in this country, both in August and October. We come and sit together on a table and agree on how to conduct an election again. And they can win maybe. In a free and fair contest, they may win, and we will accept. But this issue of shouting at the top of the mountain, saying that it is us who have won, when even school children who are standard 4 and 5 know that they did not win, standard 7 children know there was no elections in Kenya, standard 8 are finishing the exams, they knew there was no election in Kenya, the ones who just did the exam the other day. So, my point is this. Let us stop this grandstanding, gerrymandering, and this chest thumping. Come to the table and we agree on how to conduct an election.
Okay. Senator Cherargei, what is wrong with this interim arrangement that Raila suggests?
No, of course, it is good to be in government and we understand their desperation. We understand very well. Number two is that there is a problem with NASA, and my brother has highlighted. In 97, Raila lost. In 2007, 2008, he lost. In 2013, he lost. In 2017, A and B, he lost.
2007.
So there is a problem within the curricular report said very well that no one won. No one won. So the issue is
the curricular report said it was impossible to tell who won with certainty.
But we know, everybody knows, even class 1.
So your
in Nasari know that he lost, because that is why he came for Nuzumacata government the way he's doing in 2017 part B. He lost in 2017 part A.
But you are saying curricular said nobody won and lost. So why are you saying Raila lost?
So he lost by all indications. That is why it is he got the advantage, because the Kalenjins were supporting him at that time, and he got the advantage of being the prime minister. So the issue, in fact, I want to say the turnout. You have said very well, the Kitutu, 17, he won with 17%. The celebration of France as a country, President Macron, 62% of the population did not vote. Even in US, 52% did not vote. The Spain, Catalonia, 43%. So in fact, Macron with last 34, it is not about the turnout, because the constitution is very clear under Article 38 that it is the will. You don't go and force people holding their guns and telling them, come and vote so that we achieve a particular turnout.
Okay.
And therefore, they can't say, and I think they need to change the strategy, as they have said. There is nothing that Jubilee has perfected. are stealing an election. It is that we always campaign thorough, very aggressive. Our systems are in place. Losing in both 2017 and both 2017 A and B elections was not an option. We must win.
Let's leave it there for the moment. I want to ask you, when we come back, Honorable Manzo, why won't NASA participate in Parliament? And I'm sure Honorable Jeanette also, Kutunyi, all have things to say, because Parliament has had to take a recess again, at least the National Assembly. We're going to take a quick break on Sidebar. We'll be right back. I'm looking at your reactions right now on the Twitters. Gawo Gilbert, the best way to explain the 25 constituencies where no election happened, he says, if a criminal threatens to rape your wife, you do not sit back and wait to collect the evidence to sue the criminal in court. You prevent the rape by whatever means. So I guess supporting the NASA boycott of the election could go up here again. NASA stands for nothing. They'd have fought it at the ballot on 26 October. They were misguided. They lost both court and ballot. Mapinduzi says NASA has the perfect art of convincingly lying to themselves and their constituents that elections are stolen when they lose. IEBC works when they win, but is corrupt and needs reforms when they lose. And somebody who's a bit more neutral here, Abid Onyach, says the problem with this country is that we're dishonest people, politicians and voters alike. Only strong institutions can save us. Honorable Manzo,
yes.
Why won't NASA participate in the parliamentary process? The National Assembly has had to go on recess again because NASA still has not sent its members to the different parliamentary committees.
I don't think that's really the reason why, Parliament went on recess again. It's just a motion which was moved by leader of majority and agreed on, and Parliament can amend its calendar. You remember earlier on, Parliament still went on to make the doomed election laws, which even the president was scared to sign, or said his conscience bothered him because of the many reactions he had gotten from Kenyans, and he knew very well the consequences. He had opportunity to return them back to Parliament. So I think today's adjournment was for convenience purposes of Jubilee, because they're the ones who've been participating in Parliament so far. A few matters went on, and then the House adjourned. I remember I was one of the persons proposed to be in the team, in the committee, which will look at the Yela nominees. So though I was absent, I still participated by my name being forwarded by our coalition, and it's so the House went on, and it can go on with this. The only thing it can't do without NASA, it cannot change the constitution, and where 2/3 are required, they don't have 2/3 members by themselves.
If you were elected by the people of this country to represent them in the National Assembly and in the Senate, then you refuse to participate in that business, what does that tell the people? I
can only go by what the electorate in Makueni say, and I was overwhelmingly elected by 52,000 voters. It was the highest number of voters for a constituency in the whole of Ukambani. And therefore, I first consult my constituents. And you see, a member of Parliament is on call and is working 24 hours, 7 days a week. So you don't need to sit in Parliament to be serving your people. There are so many other offices you can be participating to serve your people. We are following up the issue of the Thwake Dam in Makueni. Constituency is agenda number 1 now. And that is on course, and that I've been working on daily basis. From yesterday, today, I was working on that, and I'm still serving the people of Makueni. I don't have to go to the house to argue with the Kutunyi there or the leader of majority Juilee, so that I have worked that particular day. So it's quite clear a member can participate in so many other ways, in so many other. The instructions now I have from the people of Makueni is right now is to look at the case where the party leader of Wiper and Raila Odinga and Orengo have been sued in a suit, and I'm doing that. I've been preparing. I've looked at that suit. It's disguised as a petition challenging the election of a president. And I will soon be giving the right answers at the Supreme Court.
All right.
Yes.
What do you make of NASA MPs, senators staying away mostly from the Senate and the National Assembly?
Larry, politics at times do have by the outcome. It also carries emotions. So out of emotion, some of them perhaps maybe they're still in that state of denial. But I'm seeing a change of heart. Like today, there were members of Parliament led by Mbadi issuing a statement calling for the government to come and intervene on the Migingo. At least that is one step towards, you know, the right direction, recognizing that there is government led by Uhuru Kenyatta. And then two, then there is also this issue about the so-called boycott by the members of parliament from the NASA fraternity. I don't think it is an issue of boycotting. I think there is a bit of misunderstanding. Because remember, there was a letter that was written after our friend Mbadi being appointed and his name being sent to the parliament as the leader of minority. There was protest. Then there was also the appointment. In fact, there was a position which was supposed to go to my friend here. But again, there was also resistance from another section of the members of parliament. And then again, there was also members of parliament from the coast. And in fact, they threatened that we were going to pull out of this coalition, NASA coalition, because we were not being considered for positions. So I think in NASA there are more underlying issues. And the earlier they realize, then the better. In fact, the elephant in the house is not even about the 26th election. The elephant in the house is the suspicion that has already been created inside NASA. And if I was Raila, I should be more worried on how the succession politics is shaping up. Listening to Mheshimiwa here, Mheshimiwa has put it very clear that today my name was read or was tabled in the house, that I'm going to be a part of the team that is now going to sit and appoint the members of IALA. And he has accepted. Yeah. He has not said no. So I think there is a lot of under dealings that are going on. I am even suspecting that, and in fact I've talked to a few members of parliament from Western Kenya, and they will say openly that they are tired. They want to move ahead. They want to serve their people. So I think it is a matter of time. If I was to advise... You
seem to know a lot of what's happening within NASA.
Of course, you know, you talk to these people, and you can even tell it is written on their faces. If I was Raila, I should be more worried on how the political tablet is now being crafted in his own house, where you see now some people who are silent. Some principals are very silent. Some are even have retreated. It tells a lot. The members of parliament from some regions are saying we are not going to boycott. As much as we are supporting NASA, we are not going to boycott.
Okay, Honorable Jeanette.
So I think these are the issues that...
Is NASA facing an internal revolt among your own leadership, among your own MPs and senators?
You see, what is Honorable Kutonyi is doing is talking about things which are not within his purview. Instead of talking about issues of Jubilee, he's talking about issues of NASA, which he doesn't have any knowledge about them.
Maybe he should join us.
You know, maybe he should join us, and he should not join us because I don't think there is space.
Sympathizing, and I feel the way they are. Okay, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
So, Larry,
that I don't intervene.
Those are issues called speculations. He's speculating that NASA will not stay together. So those are issues which we are used to even before the elections. But the reason why we are boycotting Parliament, that's the main thing. Leave alone these side stories of and rumor mongering and bad chat that so principal so and so is not talking, principal so those are things discussed in the bars, not on a serious television like this.
Why is NASA
boycotting Parliament? Is that there are three arms of government in the country. There is judiciary, there is legislature, and there is the executive. Now, the judiciary is functioning properly, and it is constituted properly, and they are executing their mandate properly and professionally and legally. But we have a problem with the apex of governance, which is the executive, which is intertwined with politics, because executive and parliament are intertwined in terms of law making, budget processing, budget making, and many other things, that even passing the appointments that are made by the executive. So we have decided that we are not going to aid or to help an illegitimate executive through parliament. So we have to cripple parliament so that this executive does not function or does not work. And we have achieved our agenda so far, because parliament is crippled as we are speaking now. For the last 3 months, nothing has happened. And our target is the executive, is not parliament. We are using parliament platform to destabilize the executive, which has worked. That's what Kutuji is not understanding. NASA's strategies are, done properly and executed properly. And it's not about who's supposed to be in this committee, who's supposed to be in this leadership. Those are small matters that can be dealt with. The names that his name today appeared on the order paper for a committee, we give the names as an answer because that was a critical thing. It is about the East African Legislative Assembly. That parliament has not worked for the last 4 months because Kenyans have not sent their members and they can't elect their speaker because they cannot do an election of a speaker without the... So we didn't want to stop that national agenda that we believe is a regional agenda actually. So NASA looks at regional issues in a proper manner than Jubilee. So we gave the names.
President Kenyatta said that they do not need NASA to carry out business. That he even said we can even change the constitution.
Why have they not changed up to now?
Because we have no intentions.
That is the President Uhuru's opinion. But in the actual sense, can they bring a constitutional amendment to Parliament and it goes through? It will not. It will not even see the light of the day. It will not.
President Kenyatta, I just wanted to react to that. He said that they do not need NASA in Parliament to get any business done, and he said we can even change the constitution.
They can't, because to change the constitution you need 2/3, and I've seen there has been a proposal by Jubilee to change the constitution and to a different system, and that proposal, if they really want to try, they can try to, when Parliament reopens, to see whether they can get 2/3. You can never change the constitution without 2/3 of Parliament, and there are many other activities you can't move without quite a sizable number of members of Parliament. So there's no choice but to have dialogue and to reorganize Kenya afresh and to have justice in the country, because you will never have peace if you don't have justice. You must first have justice, which is our shield and defender, so that you can have peace.
Okay. The MPs John Badi and Emilio Odhiambo and a few other NASA MPs today held this press conference where they called for the government to act.
No. I want to reply to that. In fact, I forgot. It was raised by Honorable Kutunyi.
The fact that they call on the government, does that mean they recognize the presidency of Uhuru Kenyatta?
I was there.
They did not call to the government.
I was there press conference.
Did you recognize the presidency of Uhuru Kenyatta?
No,
you are calling on his government to act.
They were not speaking to the government, as far as that statement is concerned.
Who were
They were speaking to a constitutional independent office called the Office of the Inspector General of Police, which is a constitutional office. That can you do your work? There are Kenyans who have been arrested by Ugandan government. Can you go and act and recover Migingo Island for us? They were speaking to a constitutional office that is in place. They're not speaking to a government.
Is that how you read it, Senator?
Yes.
No, they chose, they know the government is in place. That's why they were pleading with the government to work and ensure that the security situation and the issues of islands are being sorted, though it means they recognize that the government is in place. So they don't have any other option. And that is why now the Right Forum, as per Article 96 and my learned city is aware, is that NASA has been abdicating their responsibility, contrary to leadership and integrity. And that is why they have realized now they want to abdicate their responsibility. They are creating now People's Assembly, which means they don't want to work. And they, well, it is interesting to listen to our colleagues from NASA. They are taking the call from Baba. In fact, I'm aware, and I can say this confidence with my Senate colleagues, that before they come to colleagues from NASA, before they come to Senate, they receive phone calls from the aides of Baba that instructs them that they should not participate in the debates either in the Senate or in the National Assembly. So it depends on how loyal you are. If you attend the proceedings in the House, it is not the people of Makueni or Suna East who are instructing Junet not to attend the National Assembly. It is Baba who is giving such instructions. And I think it is very interesting because we are abdicating our responsibility as leaders. We have a forum that the Constitution has created. We should be using that forum as envisaged by the Constitution and ensure we bring out issues that this country needs to be addressed. And some of those issues, at least now, they are coming back to their senses, as you saw them bringing that issue, and I wish they would present their names to those committees. That it means if the committees were up and running, such issues would have been addressed at the committee level and discussed with the parliament, and therefore it shows that they are aware that who is in charge of this government, and they know it is Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto.
Is that you are the press conference?
Yeah, I was at the press conference, and I think that the two Jubilee members have totally misunderstood why we were there, and they have got a lot of wishful thinking. You know, as Juneta said, we have an office in this country, which is an independent office, which we have appointed. through Parliament, and the officer there is asleep. So we were waking up that particular officer, the IG, the Inspector General of Police. He was very much alert a few days when he was busy instructing policemen to kill people in that particular region. But when it comes to protecting life in that particular region, he seems to be asleep. And this is why we were in this situation, because we are aware that the people who are not properly recognized or have not identified themselves as policemen from another state have been extorting local fishermen there, and there have been a few deaths occasioned by such thuggery, which is squarely under the IG, and I believe, other than this press conference which was walking him up, as soon as things normalize in the country, Parliament will be summoning him to come and explain those happenings, and I believe we will prepare a report, and appropriate solutions will be found. It is upon his duty to make sure every bit of this country is given security, and if he is unable to execute that duty, then there are remedies in law which we can apply and deal with him. He's not above the law. He's an officer of the state. He has to do the duties which we hired him for, because we hired him through Parliament. Our work is oversight. If he's not doing his work, then we will move the mechanism. We will begin the mechanism to deal with him. I know he's your friend.
How can he oversight when he's not attending Parliament? Yes. And committees are not in place?
Joshua, I listened to the members of Parliament very clearly, and even I watched the 7 p.m. news and 9. The statement was very clear. We are calling the government.
Yeah.
That was Mbadi. And in fact, when it was live, I was also watching. So, Mheshimiwa, you should not really be very casual when addressing this issue. And in fact, today I've listened very keenly. Listened to Mheshimiwa here, who is a lawyer, and I've listened to my friend here. And now I can now conclude why NASA is in trouble. Because if your plan is to cripple government by not forming these committees, remember also that Parliament can operate through ad hoc committees. Already there was a select committee, parliamentary select committee today, established by members of Parliament to look into the incidences that took place in Laikipia. So Parliament will still operate. If there will be anything that government will want to address, it can still form an ad hoc committee and handle the matter.
Yes.
I want also to address another issue, which is, Mheshimiwa, you've mentioned it. You see this issue when I raised about NASA, and I'm only trying to be, to offer free advice, because we love this country. And
you've been a political advisor to President Kenyatta.
I really respect, Raila is my personal friend. But you see, I respect Raila. And you remember, I've been one of the people who've been saying, why do you ridicule Raila? He should be given the due respect, because he's a statesman. And at the same time, why do you call Uhuru names? Because this is the language that we should come up with as young leaders. Because we are the leaders who are going to take this country forward. We should sit down and say, where we are, is it better, or we can even make it the best? NASA, if I ask you, Mheshimiwa, when you talk about proper elections, people will sit down. Sitting down, people will sit down. And in fact, with senior politicians like Orengo and many people like you who are friends on this side, you should be reaching out and say, what is this thing that we need to discuss going forward? We should not wait for Raila to call for dialogue. So dialogue should be a continuous process. And if you want to also bring your issues, amendment, you will have to lobby members of Parliament from the ruling coalition, so that you can have whatever you want to pass in Parliament. So I think the earlier the better, that you realize that you need also Jubilee, not only that you need NASA. In fact, any move that is being taken by NASA is counterproductive. Like now, the issue of boycott, the economic boycott. You see, they are only looking one side. Safaricom, Brookside, and few companies. These companies, they still have also market externally. They can export. But they are not considering there are people who are benefiting under the trickle-down effect. Someone who has been a distributor of Safaricom, who is now bereft or being denied a source of income. Yet we've got high levels of poverty, high levels of unemployment. People have been distributors of Bitco. Now you are not giving them source of income. Other communities and other regions are empowering their people. You are impoverizing your people, so that then it becomes easy for them to be manipulated politically.
Is the NASA,
and that is where we are.
Is the NASA resist movement impoverishing your people? It's being called economic sabotage.
Not at all. NASA's economic boycott is not impoverishing our people at all. These are companies that actually impoverished our people politically. They have decided to allow or to help Jubilee and IBC to conduct to conduct unfair elections.
How did BIDCO help IBC and Jubilee conduct unfair elections?
You see, Hussein, I mean Larry.
Hussein, you can come and host the show.
You know, Larry, Safaricom was the one providing services to IBC. The results were going to France, they never come back here. They are cooked somewhere. So you expect us to continue respecting. They did that in 2013. They did that in 2000. These other ones.
How did BIDCO and Brookside contribute to an unfair election?
You are not an advocate here for BIDCO or for Brookside. You are not holding brief for them here.
Just asking.
They can ask themselves. Let them write letters to NASA and ask, why are you people saying that we will tell them the reasons. We will tell them that you did this and this and this and this. So unless you're telling me they have called you and they have told you, ask NASA people when they come to your show that why are you boycotting our products.
No, sir, I'm just following up on the thought you said. I'm following up on the thought you said, sir.
Those are issues between our supporters, BIDCO and NASA coalition.
But my friend,
it's not,
I know you are a very established.
Those are people who have participated in making these elections were very fraudulent. And they have not done it once, they have done it twice, thrice. And we know when we take actions of that magnitude, we are not children. We cannot just tell you, boycott Safaricom, boycott Brookside. We have resources and we are talking to our followers and supporters in the country. We are not telling Jubilee people not to drink Brookside milk. They can drink it. But people who are NASA adherents don't drink that milk. People who are NASA adherents don't use Safaricom.
Hang
on, before you jump in, he's got a question. Yes, sir.
Let me and of course I don't want to take this platform, the national TV, to discuss our personal issues and what we do and businesses, because I've known you for a very long time. But I want you to consider these people who are very poor. Someone who's just graduated from the university, he's running an M-Pesa shop. He has no job. This is all source of income. I have somebody called Makanga. Makanga, I met him in 2008 and 2009. They come from a place called Kataka on the other side of Karen. They are our neighbors. So they came together and we put them together. These are guys who normally do casual jobs. When NASA called for boycott on the other side, quite a number of his group, because they normally go to 150, and they work in these constructions companies. Okay, and they had not participated in this 26th election.
Right.
So what the bourgeoisies did, the people who own now the city, the people who've got employ 150 casual laborers in a day, then they said, if you guys you're not going to do, if this is what this team is saying, and we have decided to follow that, then we will not allow you to the construction site if you don't have ink on your finger. As we were talking with Makanga the last 3 days, he was telling me over 1,500 young people, they've lost jobs and they don't even know how they are going to sustain themselves. So they came to me 2 days ago so that we can find a way they can go back to these sites, construction site. So we had to talk to these people and they said one condition, we will pay you via M-Pesa. So then they do away with the finger. Because I sympathize with these people. And I would say majority of them are coming from Kibera and Kataka on the other side. Now if you see over 200 people, 300 people losing a source of income because of a statement from a politician who has salary and who has other source of income. I feel it is economic injustices to these poor people.
Right.
So before you enroll or you roll out an economic boycott or sabotage, consider your subjects. Do they have other source of income to sustain themselves until the time you achieve what you want? And if you want to roll out an economic sabotage, consider.
I mean, Larry.
This.
Larry, listen. You see, Larry, my colleague here is talking about economic sabotage and interest and such kind of things. The biggest injustice that Jubilee has done to this country is to have not to conduct free, credible elections in this country. The biggest problem this country is facing today is bad governance. The biggest problem this country is facing today is a government that is not responsive to the needs of its people. And here, a Jubilee member of parliament is discussing about 10 people, 5 people who are working in an M-Pesa shop that are going to lose revenue or something like that. And what we have done,
that 10 people,
give me a minute.
Yes.
What we have done, we have not told people not to be without a phone, a SIM card. We told them move to another service provider, Airtel, which has also a money transfer system. It has all kind of things that Safaricom does. So if they are defending and protecting Safaricom because they have benefited from the services of Safaricom in terms of stealing the elections, our people are not ready to accept that. Now, the injustices he's talking about on issues of economic sabotage are smaller compared to the injustices that the Kenyans have suffered through bad governance, through bad elections, through bad, associations of bad things within the country.
So the two wrongs make a right?
No. Economic boycotts are part of political weapons that parties use to achieve a big agenda that is good for the country.
Okay.
That's exactly what
I'll come to you, Senator. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say that electoral fraud means that you do not ascend to power through legal means. Therefore, that's why you find even more expensive situations like corruption. Corruption costs this country much more money than what you can think. And this is because of electoral fraud. And a company like Safaricom had been warned, and even debates or talks called for, because we had information as to which individuals who work for Safaricom participated in electoral fraud. But the company chose to protect them, fraudulent people who should have been charged in court, other than release them to face the law. And that's why they are suffering that. And we are saying there is an alternative. There is Airtel, which is now benefiting much more and also is getting empowered by the people. In the case of milk, we have new KCC. KCC belongs to the cooperatives, belongs to the people. And the people are now benefiting. In Makueni, the Brookside milk is now not being consumed, and we are very happy to consume a new KCC, which comes from Eldoret and from many other poor Kenyans who have suffered for many years when multinational companies want to capture everything.
How did Brookside or Bidco contribute to the electoral fraud you talk about?
There are many ways they participated in, and they're really not appropriate for this show. Just as Junet said, we can deal with them directly and we'll tell them, please don't do this again, and then we'll advise our supporters.
Is this boycott similar or tantamount to economic sabotage, like he's saying?
You see, the moment you send a message, it's a way of sending a strong message that there is injustice you are committing. And I said these are political problems. A political problem need political solutions.
But Larry, the bottom line.
Before you jump in, let me just get in the senator here. Your reaction to this resist movement and the boycott of some companies?
No, I think these are acts of desperation. And I want to say it is shocking that a principal has decided to become a marketing manager of some of the companies in this country. We are aware this is a racket of extortionists who want to blackmail most of the companies, that they imagine that they want to get money so that they can do boycott.
Senator,
because
what evidence do you have of that?
Of course,
you're just making a claim, sir, without any evidence.
We can prove.
Saying we can prove is not true.
We can. What I'm saying, what I want to say, no, you can't interject. You have your own time.
When you're a witch, you think everybody's a witch. So when you know you do that extortion, such thing.
You know where it comes.
Senator.
What I'm saying is very simple. Is that I'm surprised somebody and Mheshimiwa Kutunya said Raila is a statesman. Uhuru is a state. We shouldn't insult them. But when they reduce themselves to deciding to bring boycott, that some of the livelihoods of the people are at stake. Even if it is one person that we are telling them boycott Safaricom, boycott Bidco. I don't know whether Bidco was used to cook results, whether tea that was being made through Brookside was being taken by IBC. Those one does not add up here and there. And when you use that boycott of economic boycott, it means you want to sabotage the country, the economy of the country. And therefore, people who are doing businesses in this country, and you know what they are trying to do? I can tell you in simple terms, they want to ensure there is economic sabotage, there is political crisis. They go for FP, CNN, they talk to their friends, international community. The international community says
the Deputy President has done a lot of interviews on the CNN, on Al Jazeera, on the BBC.
Of course, to counter the rhetoric of the NASA leader. And therefore, they want to build a narrative that the country is failing, so that the friends from abroad will say, Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila, can you sit down? And then they come now for Lusumukate. That's why they are building all this narrative.
Larry, you know what this reminds me? When I hear my colleagues here defending Brookside, Safaricom, and this other one, what's the name? Bidco. It reminds me of IBC. When we used to talk about IBC before the elections, and we say that IBC is not ready to conduct free, fair, credible elections, we never used to get answers from IBC. We used to get answers from Jubilee. Jubilees are the ones who used to come out and defend them vigorously and say IBC is ready to conduct elections, IBC is impartial, IBC never used to speak. The same thing is happening now on this economic boycott. Instead of Safaricom coming out to tell Kenyans what they have done or what they have not done in the elections, instead of Bidco coming out on how they have done illicit funding and other kind of things, it is now Jubilee who are defending them. What does that tell you? 1 + 1 is equals to 2. That means what we have gotten to the wound. Now Jubilee is coming out to defend them because they know what they have done for Jubilee during the...
We are not defending anybody. We are holding the issue of the mandate.
These are
we respect these businesses.
These are corporates.
They give they assist in the economic growth of this country.
And
Larry,
Mheshimiwa,
so
that you can respond.
Yes.
Yeah, because I really want you to respond to this, which I'm going to raise. Mheshimiwa, we are not talking about, we are not defending Safaricom.
Yeah.
Neither we are not defending Bidco or Brookside for that case. Mheshimiwa, the point here is, I want you to see the bigger picture. If today, the supporters of Jubilee will say that we are not going to take Omiana because it is did for that.
Do you take it?
I do. Every day I do take fish, lunchtime.
Yeah.
So now,
my favorite
and Mheshimiwa, let me tell you, you have no idea. You now go to Rift Valley, come to Central, and even partly Nairobi here. Fish is becoming favorite food, and it is coming from the lakeside. Now, if today Jubilee supporters decide to do the same, I want you as a leader to see the bigger picture, that this thing can explode. It is not an issue of only Safaricom, because you must understand that when you are doing that is because you want to teach Jubilee a lesson. So I think also, Mheshimiwa, when you are coming up with these things, see the ripple effect. That it can have also, even you, I know you, most of you guys, the people who are doing business with the people who support Jubilee. And Mheshimiwa, you know, there's been a narrative. I and you, we come from a region where people struggle. If today you want to run for presidency, or if I want to run today for an elective post, and we say people to come and raise finance for us, it will take 2 months through M-Pesa to raise 20 million. But there are some people who can easily raise $1 billion within a very short time. And they have not been in power for the last 25 years. What does it tell you? People empower each other. So as they continue empowering each other, then here you are de-empowering your people. When are they going to be strong?
What would be the likely effect
now that we should be talking?
Honorable Juliet, what would be the likely effect of if Jubilee also asked their supporters to boycott certain companies?
That's fine. They will give justification as to why they are doing that. The way we are justifying what Safaricom has done. You know, one thing we are forgetting here is that Safaricom was built from the scratch by people, by Kenyan people. It's the same way Kenyan people can build another company, including Airtel, from the scratch and make it big as Safaricom.
So you want to
Secondly, the bottom line is this, before you interrupted me.
Yes.
Private sector or corporates should be careful with their dealings in politics. They should be straight doing their business and give much concern on how to handle their business. But when corporates like Safaricom and the others that have been mentioned start interfering with political, issues of the country, then it is bound certain segments of the country that will not be happy or will be affected have to respond in one way or the other. That is exactly what NASA is doing. Now,
Junet, let me take
if he boycotts fish,
yes.
I will. That is his own right. I will not say why, but I know there are nutrients that he cannot get anywhere else other than in the head of fish. He must eat fish. For sure, there are nutrients that I know that are found in the head of a fish that he cannot get it elsewhere. That's I know for sure. So I don't know where he's going to get those nutrients from. Because when I told him to boycott Safaricom, I gave him an option of Airtel. When I told him to boycott Brookside, I gave him an option of KCC. When I told him to boycott Bitco, I gave him an option of other companies that produce fats, fats and soaps and oils. But I want him to give me an option of the nutrients in the head of a fish. Where he's going to get it from?
I'm not going to respond to that because it is not very relevant to this country.
No.
I think, Mheshimiwa, you remember even Raila when he was the Prime Minister. There were many companies that he was associated with.
Yeah.
But we never raised an issue. Raila was the Prime Minister, and I know his association with many companies in this country, even during that time.
Yeah.
But you see, instead of lamenting on how Raila was raising money to support his campaign in 2013, what we did was to have a strategy on how to go for the elections in 2013 and consolidate, and we won. Mheshimiwa, today here I want to remind you that instead of focusing, in fact, 26th and even on 8th of August, I will just give you a small hint on what exactly happened. While you were so much busy forming your coalition, we were so much busy raiding on your areas. And this is how we won the election.
Yes.
Because we didn't steal the election. What we did was 51% that we had in 2013. We only needed 2% for us to be in 54%. And I will say quickly, so that you will do some homework. We had to go to Western Kenya because we knew there were issues between ODM and Fort Kenya. And we took advantage of that and we got 1% to add on what we had. We realized also there were two other regions where there were low-hanging fruits, and that was Kisii, because they were feeling that when the formation of NASA was taking place, among the principals, they were not part of it. And there was discontent. So we realized that was low-hanging fruits, and we managed to raise our numbers. We got an extra percentage. And we realized also that in this country, there was a community that always follows the incumbent. That is called the pastoral community. And then we went for the Ma community and the Northeastern. They gave us numbers. So if you, that is a different story.
It was discussed earlier.
You know, let me just summarize. So, in terms of winning, that is how we went. And I will say here that we realized cost was not easy because, of course, Sultan had locked it. And we said, now, then why do you waste time here? Go to these other regions. And Larry, I want to bring to your attention that we are not yet done. We will still move on. And by the time we are in 2019, there will be a different story.
You forgot the icing of the cake. After collecting the pastoralist votes, the 2% in Western Kenya, the 1% in Coast, the 30% in Nairobi, then after totaling all that, the only thing you should have done to queen it up or to crown it up is to open the server. Then you say the server is open here, I got 9 million after collecting all that. But what you did, you collected all that, put them in a server and you locked it. When the court told you to open it so that Kenyans can see what you have collected, you said, no, I cannot open it. So that disqualified, or that rubbish.
Was that IBC or Jubilee?
Jubilee. It wasn't a Jubilee, it was
IBC.
How is it Jubilee? And let me tell you, Mheshimiwa, today, separate IBC and Jubilee, because even as Jubilee, to some extent, by the way, we did have issues with IBC. We did have issues because we were raising the issue of How did this foreign material found its way to a polling station in Kasweni, in Kisauni,
one point
and Oma Bay?
Yes,
there's one point I thought, you know, the most unfortunate thing in this country, and I believe Jubilee should apologize for this. And again, the IG, the person in charge of security in the country, honestly, killing cows or pastoralists who you have just cheated and taken away their vote was the most unfortunate thing. And I have not had a single Jubilee leader.
You are not in the house today.
I was.
We condemned it.
Yeah, everybody.
And in fact, there is a select committee that has been formed by members of parliament from Jubilee.
That is
and
the
NASA to investigate on this matter.
The most important thing is not to investigate.
Because we are not happy.
Let him speak.
Yes.
It's not even to investigate because you know the answer. First of all, there was misuse of, you know, firearms which are supposed to be for security. It's just to compensate the Ma community and apologize. You don't need anything else. And probably the IG should resign. Because what has happened is really unconstitutional, it's against the law. Whoever gave the command was really unlawful.
You know, when I listen to Wakili, he knows the role of investigations in it. You cannot condemn somebody and add. And it is shocking that he's saying, let the government or the IG resign without, and the committee has already been formed. There are mechanisms to ensure investigations is being done to find who are culpable in that incident and what really happened, so that by the time somebody is taking a responsibility, we have a concrete evidence and investigations that have done. If we operate this way in this country, this is not a banana republic where you just stand up and say so and so should resign out of gossip or something that cannot be substantiated. So we should allow the apparatus and mechanisms that the law has given into place until somebody is held responsible. And that is the problem. That is the problem of absconding. You know,
your own course. You know
but the committee is already there. This is the disease of absconding the house.
No. We are discussing here cows that have been shot and killed. People have been killed by the same police. In my own constituency, over 10 people have been killed by police. Shooting, live bullets.
Are you sure that the bullet came from the police? We need, you know, you cannot just work on something that...
Are you saying the protesters had bullets, Senator?
No, Senator.
No, are you saying the protesters in Migori had bullets?
Because with due respect, I respect the Lord Junet, and I like how he does his politics because he wants to please his masters. What I'm saying, if we must...
Isn't that the same for you, Senator?
Allow me to respond. If you have to prove that the police did kill the protesters, let us have a report, let us do the investigation, so that by the time somebody is taking
responsibility... But now, Junet, I will support you on this.
Because I don't support... I'm responding.
It is the police that...
I agree that the police should not use their firearms to kill anybody. What I'm just saying is that let us allow the investigative arms to look into it.
But which investigative arm? It is one arm investigating the other one.
I think you know sometimes.
You know, we have an Inspector General of Police.
Of course, yes, we have.
No, let me tell you the truth. We have an Inspector General of Police who believes it is only certain parts of this country or certain communities that are criminals. When you complain to him and
which are these parts?
No, you know them. I don't need to mention names.
Why don't
when
you mention?
Complain to them, he tells you that the law must be followed. The law will take its own course. That's what you were saying today about Ugandans. When it is another side, like a member of parliament, chasing around with a returning officer and even beating him up, he tells you we are investigating and we'll investigate until we get the truth. My friend, he is going to be in office only for 4 years. I know he's from your village.
That's why it's not from my village. It's not from my village. What I'm saying is the problem is
let me
that village may
fine, he's not from the Senate, he's not from the senator's village. Okay, great. Senator.
Must be substantiated.
Wait, Senator, hang on. Joshua.
Rationality. Let us also be very rational and face these issues with decorum that it deserves. Mheshimiwa, you had me recently issuing the statement because I've been around for a very long time and I've dealt with Raila. And of course, I understand a bit of politics because I'm a student of politics. You study your opponent. And how I condemn with strong statement the use of violence on these protesters. And I remember one time when the demonstration were taking place in Kisumu and there were no tear gas. And one of the protesters was complaining that give us tear gas. It is our taxes. Which means if the police were not going to use excessive force, this protest was going to die off. So I will really plead with the police that they should find a better way. There's been also an issue of saying that they use excessive force. But I'm sure that the police also they have enough equipment that will not harm people. Let us also use even the rubber bullets. And I know Raila very well, that if you want to fight with Raila, introduce violence. He thrives very well on violence and anarchy.
What do you mean?
In terms of causing political crisis, he causes tension. So then the police, let me put it very clear. So that if the police retaliate on equal measure, then it gains relevancy.
So you do agree that the police have used excessive force in dealing with the protesters?
That is what I am saying here.
Right.
But those people who are demonstrating, they had no reason why they had to die. The police must be human in this way.
All right.
Case. So I think on this one, and I will always say it again, that we must find another better way handling these people. Because you see, politics is emotion. That an action that happens today can be carried forward. I don't want this pain to persist because Uhuru is going to win the case anyway. And then after that he's going to be sworn in. He will be the president of the Republic of the King.
You don't know that for sure. Then the lawyers here do not want to speak to the merits of the case
in my community,
for obvious reasons.
have a statement in our community that thunder doesn't strike twice. So, and you can never have luck twice. So thunder will never strike twice.
I think it's an English saying, lightning does not strike the same place twice.
Even in our community.
All right.
Let me clarify this. I did not say I support the police using live bullets or excessive. What I'm saying, let us follow the law. And it is very important, if you have seen demonstrations that have been called by NASA, they are always inflated by the goons. And I always support the police to use force and even excessive in dealing with some of these goons, so that some of these businesses...
Senator, are you saying the police should kill unarmed protesters?
No,
is that what you're saying on the right here?
They should deal with goons who are pretending to be peaceful.
You said that you support the use of excessive force to deal with protesters.
Where the goons have infiltrated the peaceful or the perceived peaceful demonstrators.
Do you want to revise what you just said, Senator? Are you sure you're going to keep it like that?
I'm just being clear.
What will you do?
That I'm saying, if there is peace, we saw the lecturers today demonstrating peacefully, but when NASA calls its demonstration, they are normally infiltrated by goons. The police are within
NASA has said those goons are not the part of the protesters.
Then they should produce those goons. The police are within their right to ensure that.
I want to take Kenya back to history. During the reign of President Kibaki, I can assure you there is no single demonstration which got nasty in this country. And indeed, I remember the first time Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto lost. There were demonstrations in town, actually from the Mungiki origin. But the police never bothered with them, and they did their thing and went away. During that time, I can assure you, for all processes in the country, if you don't bother with Kenyans as police, no Kenyans will bother with anybody. What we have seen of late is that there are people who, the goons now come and join the protesters. And in a lot of cases, they are not even part of the protest. They are just mere criminals. We don't support criminal activity. And now the best thing is to come up with a better system of dealing with it. Part of it is the protesters must have a security team boosted by the police. But what we have seen recently is a case whereby, you know, the police are bloodthirsty, there is hate, there is revenge. In fact, in most cases it was akin to genocide. It was in fact one community attacking another community. And if proper investigation is done on this, which are international crimes, I'm sure someone will be found responsible.
Larry.
Yes, sir.
Larry, one of the reasons why Kenyans changed the old constitution and got this new constitution, one of the issues was police reforms. They wanted a police authority or a police, it used to be a police force. They wanted a police service that is responsive to the needs of the people in accordance with the law. And if you look at the constitution, it says police are subordinate to civilian authority. But when you look at the way the police is operating today, and what this regime has done called Jubilee, there were commissions that were formed under the Chapter 15 commissions, like the National Police Service Commission, and the IPOA, Independent Police Oversight Authority, all of them have been mutilated, all of them have been made dysfunctional. For one reason, so that the police can be used as they are being used now. It's like Jubilee knew early enough, 2-3 years, when they were doing this amendment in the last parliament where I served, where we opposed, but the tyranny of numbers prevailed, is that they knew that they needed to weaken those institutions that were supposed to oversight the police, the National Police Service and the IPOA, so that the Inspector General becomes a puppet, as he's behaving now, and takes instructions on phone, and he's told, go and deal with this character, go and deal with this kind of people this way, use this kind of force. He's just a puppet. He has forgotten that his office is a constitutional office which has a constitutional jurisdiction and draws powers directly from the Constitution. Now he's even operating worse than the previous police commissioners that we used to have before we changed the Constitution. So when those laws were weakened, is now when we have realized that those laws were being weakened purposely to use the police as they are being used right now. But one day, you know, these laws are made for posterity. A time will come when you may not be in charge of the police as you are now in Jubilee. Other people might be in charge of the police. They can brand you goons. They can say you are a goon in Nandi, and then you unleash terror of the police on you. I don't want that kind of thing in this country. I want a country where the rule of law upholds, because all of us swore to defend and protect and uphold the Constitution. So I want a country where, irrespective of who is in government, whether I'm in government or you're in government, what prevails is the rule of law, and the police and every institution in this country operates within the dictates and the confines of the Constitution. That is the kind of country that Baba wants to live for Kenyans. That is his aspiration, by the way. I'm talking to you now as his friend and somebody who talks to him all the time. He is not interested even in becoming a president. It's not a matter of life and death for him. He can live for you, but he wants to have a country that is there in the next 50 years that operates within the Constitution, every life, the sanctity of human life. Look at the number of people who have lost their lives in Nyanza, where I come from. Those people, some of them might have become the president of this Republic of Kenya in 20 years or 30 years, but now they are no longer with us. So that is the issues we need to address as a country. Not who becomes president, or even if William Ruto becomes president, my friend, the next election he may even support you. You might not find yourself in the Senate again. How many senators were there in that Senate before you who are not there and who have been so sycophantic to the deputy president? It's at least Baba supports his people.
You have a right of reply. Senator, you have a right of reply.
He's getting emotional trying to get sympathy, which is not the point. What we are saying is that we agree the Constitution, and they were the people who supported, even his Baba who is speaking on his behalf, that this Constitution was progressive. The police have been given, and I agree, it was changed from police force to police service so that it can serve utumishi kwa wote. The issue is everybody should follow the Constitution, as simple as that. And I've asked the question that why is it that when there are demonstrations by NASA, they are always infiltrated by goons that ensure the lives here, even here in Nairobi itself, are disrupted, either businesses or somebody is injured or what have you, and they know who are these people who are infiltrating them. They want to cause anarchy. Their issue is to cause lawlessness across this country. I agree there is a problem. If, for example, I can use my county, I attended a money meeting the other day with my Governor Sang and Governor Anyang' Nyong'o, Senator Outa and myself. And you realize those people who are closing roads are young people. I want to answer him because he's saying there's some young people are killed in Nyanza. It is because people like him have ensured the young people are living in history, and they have been lied to them that somebody has their right somewhere that you need to fight for. Here, when you come to Rift Valley, you find some of us are quite young, like Kutunya and myself. We have been encouraged to learn for these offices so that we become leaders who are the decision makers. But Baba has ensured that there is a narrative built in Nyanza that somebody has your right, you must fight for it. And
what is the link between the violence or the closed roads and Raila Odinga?
It's simple. They have, in fact, these undertones that he has been making has ensured that his supporters are incited to ensure they block roads and ensure violence is persisted, because he knows out of violence he can gain what he needs.
Is that your reading of the situation?
I had mentioned it very clear, and I don't want to ever emphasize on the same issue. And for once, I think I've and sorry to my friend here, I've seen a lot of emotions running, and I can, I feel for you, Mheshimiwa. And for once now, you've talked about, healing the nation, And Baba is not even interested with presidency, and he is interested with the strengthening institutions. And I want to revisit the matter that I had said earlier before, that because elections were conducted recently on 26th, we await the court ruling. If it favors Uhuru, the better. And then again, we move forward. How do we move forward? Already Baba has talked about amendment to the constitution, which I think there will be a referenda in around 2019. And I think there are going to be two school of thoughts. There will be one group which will be saying that this constitution is defective, and we want to amend this constitution so that we heal the challenges. And then there will be another group which will want a referenda so that they can form a political vehicle for 2022.
For 2022.
You see, so I think these are the issues now that we should be focusing on as leaders, as moving forward. How do we correct the challenges that we are in now and go forward? And then two, I will also want you to go back and see, well, how did you go wrong? Who is this person who convinced Baba to boycott elections? Which had he participated, today he could have a moral authority to discuss about issues.
So you think that was a miscalculation?
That was a miscalculation, and I will want to talk like a as someone who is an expert in politics. Before you make a political move, first of all, consider the constitution, because that is your fallback position. Then they did not consider that.
Okay.
So, and it is even like, just to add on the same, it is like even on this issue of the economic boycott, it might reawaken your subject, because in politics you've got the master, you've got the servants. You are the servant to Raila, he's the master, and then you've got the subject, the people you lead. You must be very careful so that that action doesn't become a pinch to a subject, so then the revolution occurs. I am seeing a revolution in your region. If you are not careful on this economic sabotage, it can backfire.
You have had a moment.
Yes.
I want to get Honorable Manzo's take here. And
first of all, I want to comment on the change of the constitution. You know, you can't change the constitution currently unless you have a referendum. You remember the history of Okoa, Kenya, and the efforts.
I've said that.
We really must do a referendum to be able to effect sufficient changes in the constitution. Of course, that will need Parliament also has to participate in one way or another, and a framework has to be made. But the most important thing now is to heal the nation. We need to heal the nation. We are happy with the courts so far, though there has been attempts to intimidate the courts, and I think courts should be left free to guide the country using the law. And then most important is to heal the nation. We know the people have died. We know there's the economic issues. There's bitterness in the country, and you know Martin Luther King, who was fighting for the black people in America, after some time made a very important statement, which I think is good for Kenyans. He said he has now decided to live with the to stay with the love, because hate was a much greater burden to bear. And there is a lot of hatred in the country now. The country is divided. It's a very heavy burden on the country. And I think what Kenyans need to do is to embrace each other, love each other, and protect each other. And, we have a great nation which we want to build for the future of our children and for many other generations to come.
Right.
So I think there must be sobriety now, and everyone does their duty without being directed unnecessarily, and everybody takes responsibility of their actions, so that we can build a great nation. Kenya is a great nation. Those who have traveled a lot, and I'm sure the honorable members here have, you know that our home is the best, and this is our home.
what is the end game for NASA in all of this? How does this play out? How does NASA see this ending?
When I started that political problems need political solutions. There has to be dialogue, and we have to get a political solution. There are very many Kenyans, including the clergy, who are looking for solutions, including politicians themselves. People have toned down. Of late, I've not heard the nasty tones we were hearing from politicians a few days ago. Everybody's beginning to see the sense. And I think the country will move into greatness. There will be peace, and we'll embrace each other, and we'll protect each other.
All right. As we bring this to a close, what is the way out of this? Who are going to start with? I'm going to start with the Kitchen. What do you see as the way out of this?
Okay, I think the way out of it I've emphasized, because we have to wait for the court's ruling. And then, you know, Raila on the other side, because I read the Raila statement. He talked about dialogue. Nobody is going to stop dialogue. People are going to talk because we need a united nation. People are going to talk about, you know, the leaders are going to engage. If listening to Mheshimiwa here, you cannot even listening to him. I think there is a lot that is going on. And now they are sobering up. I think we leave them we give them time. It was emotional also losing elections. I think on our side, like Jubilee, we must be very cautious on how also we approach the issues ahead in terms of engaging with them. Because already if you have an wounded lion, you must be very careful on how you touch it. And I think these are very weighty sentiments. We must watch our statements so that we don't antagonize the people who've already lost. Because we need them also to be part of the government. Uhuru tomorrow, when sworn in, he's going to be the president for the people who voted for and who never voted for him. I listen to my friends from Mombasa who are talking about secession, which is impossible. I think what government needs to do is to reach out to them because already they are elected governors. So as Jubilee, we need to start now reaching out to the likes of Akina Joho, because I could read a lot of attention seeking from the administration.
Hang on, are you saying Governor Joho and Governor Kingi are attention seeking by talking about secession?
I think they were trying to tell the government that we are here and we must also be recognized.
So you don't think...
it has nothing to do with the secession, because that is a long process. It can take 20 years.
You don't think they have genuine concerns about economic exclusion?
And then come to the National Assembly. You know, people have been talking about exclusion. And Larry...
Before them, there was the Mombasa Republican Council, which had similar concerns.
Larry, when these people, they talk about exclusion, they just left the government the last 5 years ago. The last 5 years ago, they were in government in 2007 to 2013. When I hear people talking about exclusion, then it brings out the issue that they did not lay strong foundations for their people. Either they politic or they enrich themselves.
Did being in government for 5 years, 1 term or 2 terms, solve the historical problems of economic exclusion?
You see, if you are serious, you can do that. They have been governors. And I will take here, I address, Joho is my good friend. Kingi, the same thing. I've got a lot of respect for them. They've been governors. They should have come up with a mechanism to address those historical injustices. You don't have to be secluded or to go to secession so that you can turn around the economy of your people.
All right.
You will still need a national government.
Senator, what is your...
Yeah, and then lastly, we will also engage. Trust me, we will engage the people from Western, the people from Nyanza, people from every region. Government is going to engage them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Senator, how do you see the way out of the current political crisis we're in?
I think dialoguing is not a problem in this country. We'll continue talking. But I want to say, let us allow the constitutional processes to be complete. We cannot start talking when we have a petition in Supreme Court. The president is yet to be sworn in. I think when the president is sworn in and all systems are...
There's the small matter of a Supreme Court case right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We cannot start dialoguing, and we can, as you say, there is sub judice, and maybe some of the issues we'll raise are already in Supreme Court. So we should dialogue after this matter of Supreme Court is concluded. The country needs to move forward, and let us not in future demonize a constitutional process like an election. Every time this country has an election, we have a tendency of saying the country is divided. And it is shocking because when you go to grassroots like my town, like Kapsabet, I have all 43 plus 1 now. We have Makonde, which is 44 tribe. They are living, they are coexisting peacefully. So all these issues you see do not hold anything. But I think we should stop these things of demonizing our democracy. We are still growing. We should give time. And I think we should stop these issues of saying the country is divided. I don't know whether there is somebody who works around with a thermometer of division, say that when he's here in Nation Center, he says the country is divided into this percentage, what have you. But we need to dialogue in future after this has been sworn in, the president has been sworn in, then we can discuss from there.
So, Senator, you don't think the country is divided?
I don't think the country is divided.
So the country is very united.
The country is united. What we are experiencing is a democratic process, which is a constitutional process.
All right, Jeanette. Are Governors Kingi and Joho seeking attention by talking of secession?
First, I don't think, before I answer you on that one, I don't think we are living in the same country with the senator. I think we are just physically here together, but we live in different worlds. Maybe he lives in Mexico and I live in Kenya. Because the way he's talking and the way he's saying that this country is not divided, then I think he only understands this country in the perimeters of Nandi County and Nairobi, where the parliament is.
He says there's no objective measure of division.
There's no objective measure of division. How can you tell us the country is divided?
No, I agree with him, because his thinking and thoughts are only on Nandi County and Nairobi and maybe the office of the deputy president. Then from there he goes back home to sleep. Larry, this country has a serious problem. This country has a problem where we did not have proper elections in August, and on 26th, where Jubilee decided to conduct their own opinion poll. I can say that the people who advised my party leader to not to participate in the elections were very wise people, because there was an election. There was an election that was nullified by the.
We are in different countries.
Yeah, there was an election that was nullified by the Supreme Court, and we told IEBC the election did not bungle itself. People who are working in the IEBC bungled the elections, because the elections were conducted by human beings. IEBC decided to say we will do things the same way, the same form, the same manner, and the same shape that we did on August of 8th. Is the same way we are going to do the repeat one. Now, anybody is in normal senses, do you think you can go back to that kind of election and think you'll get a different result? No. That is the reason why he didn't participate in the elections. Irrespective of how the Supreme Court case goes, most likely the elections will be nullified, because there was no election at all. Most likely, that's what I believe. Let us come together and prepare now the ground and lay the ground for proper elections, so that this country for once can have proper elections. Now, the issue of, I agree with my colleague here, the way he spoke, this country needs to be united. This country needs to be brought together. That is very important, what he said. But what Jubilee is doing, they look for people who have lost in the elections. They go to Western Kenya, they collect rejects from people who have been rejected by the people. They go to Coast, they collect rejects who have been rejected by the people.
Who are Babu Namwamba, Hassan Omar?
I don't want to mention names.
There's the people
no, there are many. There are many. In every constituency, there are people who have lost. In every county, there are people who lost governorship. Now they bring those people together. They say, "Tuko pamoja." This country is united. People who have been rejected by the people. You are telling me, "Tuko pamoja." That narrative will not work in this country. Larry, to finish my submission, if this country is to develop economically, to prosper economically and socially and even politically, this country must have good foundation of governance. And the beginning of good governance is proper elections. Without proper elections, we will not get anything right. But if anybody wants to have his way, I can tell you, last election the computers were set at 54%. Next to it, if we don't rectify those mistakes now, the next computer will be set at 74%. That is for William Ruto, 2022. Then Kutuny will come after him, it will be 86%. Good. Then another Kariuki will come after him, it will be 98%. That is how, he will just set the computer. Are we going to run a country like that? No. We want to have a cohesive country. We want to have a united country, irrespective of who is the leader. But irrespective of who is the leader.
You're starting a fresh conversation. No. So really quickly,
I'm doing my final submissions. You have your time.
All right. Really quickly, Jeanette, you have to finish. Well, it's midnight.
Yeah.
It's midnight, Jeanette.
So what I want us to do is, we have a constitution that has laid proper foundation for this country in terms of governance. We have refused to follow it. It has said how to conduct free and fair elections. It has said how the police is supposed to operate. It has said how IEBC is supposed to operate. The regime manipulates all that. If they can respect institutions, he's saying that let us not demonize institutions.
Right.
The way they're demonizing demonstrations, which are allowed under Article 38, 37, That is the way they're demonizing demonstrations. If we can allow these institutions to operate independently and professionally as they are required, then we will have a proper country called Kenya.
Does that include the IEBC?
Yeah, of course.
You're demonizing some institutions, but NASA is also demonizing IEBC?
No, we're not demonizing. IEBC, you remember, none other than the chairman himself said he cannot guarantee free and fair elections.
But that's not when NASA started demonizing IEBC.
The time we were going to the elections, the IEBC commissioners were 7. The people who conducted now the last opinion poll was 6. One had flown away, he ran away. Why? Because he said, I cannot participate in a mockery of some semblance of an election. So me, I think going forward, we need to reason together.
Okay.
We need to bring our minds together, and we need to chart the country, the path of this country in a proper and sober manner as leaders.
Kutunya had something to say real quick before we close. I don't want to leave it unsaid.
I think, Junet, you've captured it well. The only thing that you did not capture is to expand also your strategies and get the right people so that they can advise you on how to win an election. Then you don't confuse these numbers. And then putting in place proper procedure, having the right people in the ICT, having a parallel tallying center so then you can counter, having agents in every polling station, setting all these things like what I did in my constituency. I knew that I was winning. I knew I was winning by 10 p.m. because we had agents in every polling station, and they would send SMSs to our tallying center so that, then there will be these funny games. So I'm going to help you on that. Because in 2022, we will need to work together and then help you also in succession.
Definitely there's a
and
talent
help you also in succession.
There's definitely the talent you need to know from Jubilee.
And
we can't say it on TV. We'll say
and
it
I'm also
TV.
going to help you because you seems not to understand Baba. Baba raised a statement today, and I don't know why.
You're starting afresh.
No. I want you to help me on this. I want him to help me because he said that even if Uhuru Kenyatta, his victory is going to be held by courts, he will make sure that he is not sworn in. So I think such a statement coming from a statesman. Who said that? He said it.
Where?
Today. It was there. It was there.
In the Reuters interview, he didn't use the exact same words, but he said they would resist.
So we need to talk to Baba. We need to talk to Baba. We need to talk to Baba.
Okay. But Baba is
gentlemen.
Because those things are impossible.
But
gentlemen,
at the back of your mind,
Baba
is the legitimate president. You know that.
And
let's not start afresh, gentlemen. So let's leave it there. Do you believe, though, Manzo, real quick, that Governor Kingi and Governor Joho talking of secession is seeking attention?
As you had stated much earlier, the matter in the coast is historical. There was even a movement there which was saying Pwani si Kenya. So I think as leaders, they are listening to their people. And they are beginning to echo what their followers say or what the people they represent say. But it's a matter which needs due consideration, and whatever is what has happened to that region historically, the historical injustices, the land issues, the financial issues, has to be dealt with. We have to make sure that this part of the country is listened. Otherwise, there is a real danger in the future of secession if this will never be addressed at anyone's given time.
Okay. That's a good place to end it.
Yeah, but you see, this issue of secession,
this issue
of secession should not be taken casually, Larry. It's a very serious matter. It's a boil that is coming up because, look, in the history of the Republic of Kenya since independence, this is the first election that certain part of the country did not take part in a general election.
Okay.
Even when people used to demonize Moi's time in 1992 and 97, and Moi used to say that he's rigging election, he's a dictator. Still, people used to participate in an election.
Okay.
Even longer. If we shouldn't have the people should lastly talk about situations and the governors. They have resources. What have they done with the resources? Now that they are making their followers look helpless.
Okay. That's a great place to end it. Can I read?
65% is still with the national government.
But they have resources.
So you need the national government.
When you enter into
Mombasa, the national government.
85.
So you recognize the national government.
85%.
But
so
it's in the constitution.
Okay.
What have they done?
Okay, gentlemen, let me read some tweets before we go. Emmanuel Olima says, it's interesting that Jubilee people think that we're not connected with our leaders. Apart from the sycophancy and the Cambridge Analytica ideologies, there's nothing else Jubilee leaders offer. We are the people. I'm trying to read a cross-section of leaders. Kolo Fadhili says President Kenyatta was insisting on this election to paint a picture that he won despite the legitimacy of the election so that he can demand for nusu mkate. There is no way Uhuru Kenyatta can win free and square elections. DJ Don says, this guy Joshua Kutuny is so brilliant. Such minds should be leaders of majority. Somebody has a job idea for you. Ronnie Chirchir, when they can't connect the relationship between Brookside and Bidco companies, that's for you guys. Says NASA can't connect between Brookside and Bidco. I cannot imagine a Kenyan saying on national television that other Kenyans should be dealt with. Senator Cherargei, police to use excessive force. We have prisons for goons, not bullets for them. Life is far greater than your political pockets. That was in reaction to something you said. Roya Dembo says, Joshua Kutuny, tonight know that you and Jubilee are incompetent even in rigging elections. At Jan giving us lectures on how NASA should win elections. Daniel and Jeanette, give that guy facts.
They didn't give.
You didn't think they gave any facts? Ismail Yassin, if we sow seeds of politics, you don't expect non-partisan fruits. The expungement of Isaac Hassan from IEBC was political and unconstitutional. The current commissioners are a product of a bipartisan process. How many times will we shift goalposts in the name of reforms? Kutuny is nodding very, very aggressively at that point. And finally, Nailex, Nairo, interim government is a term used by NASA seeking a nusu mkate government. I saw this coming right from the time NASA was using the clergy to call for dialogue. Correct. Okay, we're going to leave it there. Okay. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on. Junet Mohammed, Joshua Kutuny, Senator Samson Cherargei, and Daniel Maanzo. Singoja nimalize show ndo amke brother. Thank you so much for watching. We're back next Wednesday at 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. My name is Larry Hussein Madowo. As Jeanette today gave me a name. This is like a Joe Linas situation from the presidential debate. What is it with NASA people and getting people's names wrong?
No, you see, I've appeared in that debate many times. So
Hussein is a good man.
Yeah, I got used to him.
All right. Good night, everybody. Jose, good morning. We'll see you next time.